come across this framework, right? But if you have been with me earlier back, all right, you may recall we had a GDV approach, Golden Village, remember? So when the question asks you for standards of living, you try to think of GDP links, GDP impact, because GDP affects your standards of living. Then you try to find direct victims or beneficiaries. I used to call this the ion sky analogy, which means don't always talk about GDP impact, try to find direct impacts. D means that under page 108, I had a DECO framework for standards of living. Okay, and you can use the DECO framework to come up with other points. Sounds familiar? Just think about direct victims and beneficiaries. So, if you ask me what is the impact of productivity on standards of living, I can probably say higher productivity may result in higher GDP. Okay, maybe because you get more investments, foreign investors are more confident. Okay, or you sell more exports. So material standards should improve. Okay, so from GDP, I also said you can link to non-material standards because tax revenue goes up. You can spend on healthcare or education. So non-material standards can improve. Okay. Or you can say more stress. Or when people are richer, they buy more cars, factory output goes up, more pollution also. Non-material standards worsen. Okay. So those are all tied to GDP. Use this as a constant or consistent framework. GDP ties to material, GDP ties to non-material. Of course, here you have to say, oh, assuming population growth is not as fast. Okay. Then per capita goes up. Okay. Who are the direct victims, direct beneficiaries? You see, okay, why am I trying to steer you away from just talking about GDP? Because your answer needs context. If you just talk about GDP, every question becomes quite general. Oh, you tie everything to higher or lower GDP and hence your answer. Okay, so direct victims, then you're saying workers, let's, yes, those who have been displaced, like displaced by technology. Higher productivity means you bring in machines, they will suffer. But the retrained workers benefit because they get higher wages. You see, you're actually diving in and looking at the case in point more closely. Instead of just saying, it's always about higher GDP and then what happens thereafter to material and non-material. This is context. Okay. So you can read this page if you're not sure about DECO, but under complementary indicators, you can suggest what happens to Gini coefficient. If only the high-skilled workers benefit, income disparity widens. But if you reach out to the low-skilled ones, income disparity falls. It's a relevant concept when you talk about standards of living. You can also say you are spending more on capital goods, you know. The op cost is your consumer goods. So if the government uses the budget and pours it into training courses, you are developing capital goods. You could have used the money as GST credits or transfer payments to improve current standards of living. Okay, so remember the golden